challenge uses quite a lot of data sets as the input, and yet we only have one input step in our workflow. And so the wildcard union really does us miracles here. So what's happening if I scroll to the top of this input step? So I'm going to the tables tab and I'm choosing to union multiple tables in the same folder. All of those tables are in the same folder, which is great. And we're choosing to use a file filter, and we want that to match the format of 20 star.xls star. So that means that we want to have our data sets starting with the number 20, so 2020 for example, it'll pick up that, it'll pick up 2000, it'll pick up 2001, so on and so forth. And then our XLS with the star at the end means that it's going to pick up not only XLS files, but also these XLS files, SXLSX files towards the later years in the dataset, which is super cool that it's going to pick those up. So when we've hit our apply button, then it goes ahead and adds in all those 24 different tables of data. So all those tables, so for each year we have each tennis match that's been played, which is pretty good, pretty big data set. And we also use our input step to simply keep only the seven fields that we are interested in this data set. So just going through and making sure to remove any that we're not interested in for this challenge. And then we take a look at our data. Yep, pretty big, 63,000 rows of data there. But we only care about Grand Slam matches. So we click on that Grand Slam, say keep only, and filter that down in this next step. So next up, we want to filter this data even further. We've only got 12,000 rows now, but we're hoping to filter it down even further to just the players that we care about. So we're going to filter this winner field to just Andy Murray, Nadal, so on and so forth. So I went to the menu here, went to filter and did a selected values. So if I show you how that looks here, then I just, on that winner field, just searched for those player names that I needed and went ahead and ticked them so that I only had those 4 players left. But at the moment we've still got like 1,000 rows of data. So even though we filtered to those 4 players, we've still got a lot of rows of data coming through. So we just want 4 rows of data for each of those 4 players of interest. So 4 rows of data, 1 row per player. There we go. That makes more sense the way I'm phrasing that. And now we have a player of interest field that we can use to filter down our data set to just the wins of those 4 players. So we haven't got the losses yet because we were filtering based on the winner field, but joining based on that winner means that we've got at least the wins so far. But you'll notice that we have over 800 rows of data, which means that some players will have won more than 200 Grand Slam matches. And so we need to make sure that we only keep their first 200 wins. But first of all, we'll categorize these just as win-loss. So we've got a calculated field that just literally has the word win written in, because all of these matches are wins. And then for our first 200 wins, we're going to do a ranking. So if I just expand that, then we used the date field in ascending order, grouping by the player of interest, and then we get our order that they won those matches in. And we just want to filter that so we only have 0 to 200 for each of the players. And now we've got the 800 rows that we would expect, which is great. So at this point, we're starting to get ready to bring in those losses as well. So we bring in an aggregate step for our player of interest and when did they reach 200 wins, so the maximum date once we filtered it down to those 200 wins, and we rename that field to be the 200th win, so it's nice and clear for us. And then we join that back to our workflow from before we started joining on the wins. So these all contain the losses and also the every single player still, so we make sure to join those in so that we're now joining the loser to the player of interest, and we're making sure that those wins happened before those losses happened before the 200th win. And now we're certain that these are all our losses because we joined based on the loser field, and we can see those all over here. And so we just make a calculated field with in the win-loss. This time these are the losses. Remove any unnecessary fields that we have there. And then union back together with our wins. So we have our wins and our losses in the same data set. So the only thing that I've forgotten about is the days since the last win. That's over looking at our wins again. So this time we're using a lookup calculation. So that we can look at when the previous win date was, we can then just use a date diff calculation to work out how many days were between that. So we're grouping by each player of interest, we're ordering by that win number in ascending order, and we're using the lookup function to find the date on the previous row, so -1. And then that looks like this. So let's take, for example, Federer, as he's at the top here. Then we can see that we don't have a value for his first win because obviously he never won anything, so he didn't have a win before that. But then here on his second win, you can see it takes the date from the previous row to there. So now we have the date of his second win, we can compare it to the date of his first win, and we can work out the number of days. So we use a date diff there for number of days between the previous win date and the date, and we can see that that is 3, as we're expecting for Federer between his first win and his second win, which is great. So we can just get rid of that previous win date that we used to calculate that, and we have our fields that we needed, and we're ready to output the data. So hopefully that was a fun challenge for you. I had fun working through to prepare this data, so thanks for watching.